Okay, welcome everyone to this final version of machine learning in mathematics. So today a very biased perspective on something. So I'm trying to cover, well, most of what we covered so far was like mathematics research questions and how can you attack them using AI. But I also want to talk a little bit about education, at least in this final video, and then I will wrap up. So, in particular, I will talk about grading following this paper, which I choose because it's like really recent, like 12th of December 2024. And I probably should say that, and I will say it now because things are moving so fast. Let me just say it. I'm recording in April 2025. Right? So if you watch this video in a year, it might be completely outdated. Who knows? Anyway, so I've chosen that because it's fairly recent and it's particularly about math. So automated grading is not a new research field, but this one is particularly about math, and that's what I'm trying to address today, and I give you my very biased perspective on what's actually going on or what you can do. So, so I found this picture on Wikipedia. I think it was Wikipedia on math education, and it really reminded me how I learned linear algebra, right? So if you really look at the picture, whatever, here's 1 over determinant times the matrix equals the matrix inverse, classic linear algebra thing. And it really looked like how I learned it, in particular when I found this screen here. And it looked like to me like that was the screen that was around when I was young, when I was learning linear algebra. So a lot of people, and literally everything you ever do, people just are very kind of quick to say there will be a revolution, right? Video will revolutionize education, audio will revolutionize education, whatever will revolutionize education. So AI will revolutionize education. We'll see. I don't know, but maybe more down to earth question is how can machine learning, AI, whatever, help in math education? So I will usually talk about the university level, but let me show you at least one video, which I recently realized was really nice and very impressive. So this video, which you can just Google, and we can just briefly watch it together. So if you just watch it, they will explain essentially and eventually. Beautiful. And the student here is learning, and the AI is essentially doing the job, just trying to be a tutor. And whatever, the student draws on the iPad and gets some feedback from the AI. I really recommend watching this video. It's extremely impressive. But let's not do it right now because, well, you could watch it yourself, of course. Right? So there's some progress going on. AI in mathematics, in this case, a tutor. So maybe eventually I will be replaced. I'm pretty sure I will be replaced. When that will happen, I don't know. But right now, let's actually zoom into it. It's a much smaller problem, right? I have no idea what the future holds, right? Nobody has. I have no idea what will come. We'll see. Maybe it will revolutionize. Maybe it will not. But I would just want to zoom into a more specific problem, which I think is like a tailor-made problem for something that people want to replace by AI. Grading exams. Yeah? Grading exams is... I don't know anyone who actually likes that. So if you know someone who likes grading exams, let me know. I don't know anyone. It's like nobody likes that. Everybody hates that. Everyone hates exams. Students hate exams. Of course, teachers hate exams. Yeah? Everyone hates exams. But it's somehow necessarily evil. Nobody really likes. And this is like a prototypical example where you want to use AI, right? Nobody likes it anyway, so why not use AI? So kind of the question, the obvious question here is, how can you grading in mathematics as a prototypical example of what machine learning could do, and how is it actually working? And you could think of this grading as not just grading math exams. I will just focus on grading math exams because that's essentially what the paper was studying. But you can also think about grading in different ways. Like you have an interview, right? You have a job positioning opening. In academia, usually there's like way too many applications for the job positioning. So how can you sort them? Well, you could do, for example, an AI interview, That's like grading the applicant, right? You give it some marks, whatever. Top applicant, boring applicant, whatever, something like that. And it might work really well, and it's actually already done in 2025. So the bigger companies, the bigger tech companies run that already, which kind of makes sense because if they open a position, right, the bigger tech companies, they get like, I don't know, a lot of applications. So someone needs some sorting system. And why not use AI to do it, right? It kind of makes some sense. Some pre-sorting. Right now, I will be very honest with you. Positions in academia are essentially pre-sorted by your the length of your publication list. And actually, an AI interview probably is actually a better way of sorting, right? Length of publication list is a very rough metric, so maybe actually using AI would actually be better. So that's another instance of how grading actually appears in mathematics, right? But let's just focus on exams, to not make make it a toy model, not make the problem too big. Otherwise, there's not much you can say. And if you look at the typical questions, you will see, I can zoom in a little bit by just pulling up the image I'm using here, right? So the typical questions you see in, some kind of an analysis exam, right? Does a sequence converge? Justify your answer. Okay, that's something AI should be able to do. So let's just actually check that. So what do we have here? Square root of n and then square root of n plus 1 minus square root of n. Okay, so let's try that. Should I learn spelling? Maybe. Does the following sequence converge? Well, it will be able to figure it out. I really need to learn spelling at one point, but anyway. And what is it? SQRT of n times, and what was it? Maybe I'd put a bracket like this. SQRT, so square root of what was it? N plus 1 minus SQRT of n. And we'll see what happens. It should be able to do it, actually. That's my sequence. Wonderful. Step 1. Okay, simplify the expression. Conclusion, the less the sequences converges and the limit is a half. I think that's actually right. So not so bad, right? So usually those questions, those type of questions, whatever you see in the major exams where you want to use AI because there are just too many people writing the exams, it looks to me like AI should be actually able to do it. Right? And very similar to research, it's not just answers matter, otherwise it would be easy. Like grading a multiple choice question, that's easy. You don't need AI to do it. Yeah? You can just, that multiple choice is easy. But somehow you want to kind of justify your answer. They usually have those questions in mathematics. And yeah, maybe AI can actually do it. And it looks to me like a transformer, so a large language model, should perform quite well on those tasks, on those questions. But probably only if you kind of have some human interaction to double check, some human in collaboration with humans, right? AI in 2025, for me, right, my biased perspective is usually like you should use it in collaboration with humans, or you as a human should kind of always kind of double check what's going on. But actually, it's quite helpful. Yeah, and this looks to me like one of those problems where exactly that happens, right? It's quite helpful. But you still somehow you can't have it completely automated, at least not in April 2025, and that's what they actually did in the paper. Essentially confirmed. Although I would think this is my interpretation. So if you read their conclusion section, it's a bit different. But anyway, I feel like this is my interpretation. And essentially they ran ChatGPT. We can actually read it in the paper. So let's read it together. It's a little bit nicer to just zoom in a little bit. So at the very beginning here, we used OpenAI, so ChatGPT. Maybe I need to zoom out a bit. And they were supposed to grade things, and they had scans of handwritten solutions. And you either give it no context, or you give it the answers, or you give it the rubric as well, right? And like this one is essentially what you should think is the correct thing, maybe this one. And it turns out it's not so bad. So, well, the accuracy, whatever, these are not great. So kind of, it's exactly this result. If you read here what they're actually doing, they're exactly the result where it's not quite clear what the correct thing to do is. So it's clearly nothing you should throw away. It's doing pretty okay, but it's also clearly not something you should just use without double checking. That's my interpretation of what's going on here. Yeah. So it's doing actually quite well. And the two major issues they identified is the reading of the student's handwriting. The AI seem to have quite trouble reading the student's handwriting. I can relate, not just that my handwriting completely sucks. So sorry to anyone who had to read it. Sorry for that, by the way. But also, if you read an exam, sometimes you have this handwriting really just like, what the heck are you writing? So it's kind of relatable. And the other big issue they had is that the GPT they used, the one from OpenAI, that's very diplomatic, right? It's like, it's so diplomatic. It's unbelievably how diplomatic it is. And that was a problem here because essentially everyone got the same grading, right? It somehow doesn't like to give very extreme grades. Neither the bad extreme grades nor the good extreme grades. Somehow too diplomatic. I personally feel like that's something you can solve. Yeah. In particular, if you fine-tune a neural network for grading, it should be actually pretty good. So again, my interpretation here is of the results they have is that it's actually doing quite well. And you can effectively use it together with some human input. And I think that's pretty much exactly what happens for research questions as well, which is kind of essentially the state of the arts. My biased conclusion for this video sequence. Essentially, the state of the arts in April 2025 is that it's machine learning and neural networks in mathematics is really good if you use it combined with human expertise. Yeah? So really combined is here the crucial word. And it's doing some things like formal proof verification or pattern recognition, generating counterexamples. It's really good at those, but you still need some human input. And that's totally fine. So I'm using it for my research all the time. And hopefully we see a trend that this interaction between human and AI keeps on going and we produce hopefully more very exciting results. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this lecture series, this video series. Hopefully it was a reasonable amount of fun. And I also hope to see you next time.